Hello, good evening, and welcome to this edition of Business Live. My name is Emmanuel Abwaji-Biafi. Coming up in this evening's edition, questions raised about President Mahama's explanation on recent power inconsistency as non-payment of money to Nigeria Gas also mentioned as contributory factor to Ghana's power challenges. Public Utilities Workers Union, PUWU, says it is still against moves by government to privatize the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG. And disbursement of third tranche of IMF cash to Ghana before the end of the month set to be under threat. Those were the headlines. You can always get interactive with us by tweeting. The handle is @JoyBusinessGH, and you can also log on to Facebook, where we are on Joy Business. And then for more business news, you can go on to myjoyonline.com/business. We'll be right back with the details.
Business Live today is brought to you by GCB Bank.
Thanks for staying and welcome back. Now, President Mahama says government will not declare a return to load shedding, even though he is aware there are challenges with power supply in the country. His comments come in the wake of criticisms of the Electricity Company of Ghana for failing to advise its customers about the frequent outages. Addressing Muslim faithful at the Independence Square on Wednesday, he said the current situation is attributable to the work of saboteurs in Nigeria.
Recently, there have been some issues with electricity tariffs. The Electricity Company of Ghana has done some work on it. They have done a realignment of their billing system, and I believe that people can begin to feel some relief in terms of the bills that they were paying. The bills have been made more transparent so that you can tell with every unit you buy how much the value of the unit is. It is not a subsidy, it's a realignment of the billing system that makes it possible for us to be able to know how much we're spending on electricity. Aside from that, we have recently suffered some generational problems. I held a stakeholder meeting with all those involved in the power sector. Because of sabotage in Nigeria on the terminals, crude oil that we ordered last month has not arrived. And so it has created some generational problems for us. But I've asked the bulk oil storage company to start storing at least 1 month of light crude oil supply for Ghana, so that in the event anything happens at the supply end in Nigeria, we are not affected the way we currently are affected. And so I'll crave your indulgence and urge all of you to understand we're not declaring load shedding. We're not declaring load shedding. I believe things will normalize, but we're taking steps every day to ensure that Ghana has security when it comes to power.
All right, so that was the president attributing the current inconsistency in power supply in the country as being the work of saboteurs in Nigeria. We will be bringing you a call with Nigerian journalists on energy to tell us what he thinks about the situation happening in Nigeria and its impact over here in Ghana. But let's move on. The Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, has reiterated its call for government to, as a matter of urgency, adopt open competitive bidding for contracts in the oil and gas sector. This, according to the center, is critical in ensuring that the country gets value for money in all its contracts in the sector. The procurement law requires government uses open tender in the award of contracts and sole sourcing under specific circumstances.
The fact that Ghana is new as an oil producer is immaterial because there are many new producers who adopt open and competitive bidding. In fact, there are some countries that haven't even produced. They haven't even made discoveries. Sierra Leone is one. Guinea, Liberia, they haven't made a discovery. Their law allows for open and competitive bidding. So it is not whether Ghana is new as an oil producer which matters. It is also not when you are old as a producer because Nigeria has been an oil producer. They don't have, competitive bidding. It's whether you are ready for good governance. That is what matters. Open and competitive bidding allows you to select a company that gives the highest value to your resources. So in that sense, your revenue will also be higher. So given the same cost, if you have more revenue from the one that you select, then in relative terms, the cost per unit on that block is lower.
It's on Business Live. Now, the disbursement of the third tranche of IMF cash to Ghana before the end of this month might be under threat. Joy Business understands that the expected board meeting, which should have happened around this time to aid the disbursement, could delay for a while. But what could be the implications of this development on the economy? George Yafi has more.
From the IMF's own timetable on Ghana, the board of the fund should have met around this time to review the country's performance and make the necessary recommendations for the release of some $160 million to the Bank of Ghana. Checks by Joy Business indicates that Ghana was not on the agenda for the board review in June and even this month, which has always been the time it meets to review Ghana's performance under the program. However, sources say the challenge has come about because of delays by the IMF staff in concluding its report on Ghana's progress. Joy Business is learning that the staff report has also been delayed due to challenges by the Ghanaian authorities in meeting some critical performance targets under the program, like the passage of the Bank of Ghana Act and strategies to address the rising debts of state-owned institutions. For some, this development might just not be good for the economy. This is because government is not just looking for the IMF cash, but also a good report from the fund that it can use to convince investors and donors that is on track when it comes to stabilizing the economy. Delays in approving Ghana's performance could also affect efforts to issue the country's fourth Eurobond before the end of the third quarter of this year, and even plans to review targets set out in the 2016 budget this month.
And in a related development, economist Dr. John Kwache says the only option now is for the IMF to forgive government over its inability to meet some critical targets.
And they grant waivers. You see, if they think that maybe what the outstanding reforms, maybe they can forgive the government because of they were unforeseen circumstances and things like that. They can waive them, but they don't have to be too many. If there are too many, the board will also not agree to. You grant waivers for all of them. For instance, in one of the reviews, I remember they granted a waiver for our non-observance of domestic payment arrears. I mean, not accumulating. I think one of the arrears, and they saw that it was a minor thing so they granted waiver. So there's always that provision that if it's just some minor infractions, they will grant you waivers. We have to go back to the program to see exactly when it is supposed to have been enacted, to be able to know whether they have breached it. I don't remember exactly what the timetable is for that. But so the Bank of Ghana Act and maybe other other structural reforms that they are supposed to have undertaken, until the review comes out, we don't have inside information to be able to know exactly what has been done and what has not been done.
All right, so you are still on Business Live, coming to you right here on a favorite station, Joy News. The West African Gas Pipeline Company, WAPCO, suspended supply of gas from NGAS of Nigeria some weeks ago. The company said it was a result of unpaid bills by the Ghana government. The Volta River Authority owes Nigeria's NGAS about $180 million, while NGAS in turn owes the pipeline company $104 million. Corporate Affairs Director of WAPCO, Harriet Reku-Brobe, explained the reason behind the suspension.
The specific action that we have taken based on the directives of our shareholders on our board was to suspend transportation services. So, we give transportation services to NGAS, that's the supplier of gas to DRA and EED. So, because the company WAPCO is not getting paid for its service, it's been placed in a difficult position. And so the directive was for us to suspend the transportation service. And I assume that because we suspended the transportation service, NGAS not having a transporter to supply the gas, also suspended the supply of gas. We are transporting the gas on behalf of NGAS. NGAS gets the gas from producers and then transports it to the off-takers through WAPCO. So payment is made to NGAS, and NGAS also pays WAPCO for the transportation service that it has offered to them. So that is the arrangement that is in place. We wrote to NGAS to tell NGAS that we are suspending transportation services. For us, the revenue that we make, based on which we operate the pipeline, based on which we pay